Kat, Andrew,
Cliff.
Julia,
Roxy. Adrian.
Gilbert.
Simon. Lockie.
Carl.
Peter.
Dean.
He-Man.
Cass.
and birthday boy.
Yeah. Well, good to see you all.
Good to see you, Bob.
Some of you go back a long, long way. Back into the 70s. Amazing. And there's quite a few that have dropped off along the way too, so we're lucky.
Yeah, we'll have to just put them inside. Yeah, but we have about 4. Yeah. Can I put it in?
Jesus, rockstar. Turn up today.
Pardon?
Rockstar turn up today.
Yeah.
And close to the flag.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have this one or if someone wants the long one?
Had it.
Hey, good to see you. Good.
One seat here.
I love the camera.
Whoever's coming in a bikini, consider that.
Jesus, I'm glad I got her in. I'm glad I got her in.
The little one is also good to see on the floor. I think we can fit another 2 in between. Kind of just a little bit. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, that will be. Yeah. We are in the pictures and that kind.
Maybe you can come forward.
So you can pick. You could just see it. Would you like a pillow on this one?
No.
I'm okay, thanks.
No, he'll be right. He'll be right.
Geez, we're down to the stool. Here's a full house down at the stool.
Yeah. Doesn't really matter if you don't hear all the talk. Most of you have heard it all many times before anyway, so if we miss out on a bit of it, it doesn't. And it's still the same old, same old. Non-dual. One without a second. Not two, only that. And that's the great mantra. I am that. Thou art that. Everything is that. And innately, don't you all know that? Because I say, that's the chair I'm sitting in, that's the room I'm in, that's the space in the room. That's the trees, that's the flowers, everything is that. Which we discriminate with putting a word or a label on it. Otherwise, what we try to describe is what they call in Hinduism Advaita. Advaita meaning non-duality. Translate non-duality by saying it's one without a second. And they put that second on it, because not talking about the second in time, but the second, one without the other, not two, only the one. And when it's investigated and looked into, you'll see that it's so. It is only the one essence, pattern, shapes and forms, expresses as all these seeming things. All the diversity, all the differences of shapes and forms. Say, call it Sat Chitananda Nama Rupa. Sat is existence, Chit is consciousness, Ananda is loving to be, or the blessed being. And the other effect is Nama Rupa is the body and the mind. And they tell you that Nama Rupa, body and mind, are illusion. And it's all that one existence, consciousness, and loving to be. Anyone who's not existing right now. And if you haven't worked it out before, you must realise now, yes, I'm existing. You can't say you are not existing. Anyone who's not conscious or unaware. No, and you know all is happening where you are. There is a consciousness or awareness right there. None of you want to be dead right now, so you're all happy to be. And that's what we're pointing to. And that's, when you look at it closely, that's what you are. You're already that. But the thing is, we've taken on this belief and concept and idea that we're separate individuals, persons. And in that sense of separation, all our problems come about. Because if it's not separate, is that one without a second? It is absolute. And what can you add to the absolute? Nothing whatsoever. What can you take away from the absolute? Nothing. It wouldn't be absolute if you could add to it or take away. So, if you're not realising or understanding it out, you are that absolute. And that's what needs to happen. Start from the fact that you are already that. Instead of starting from this belief that you are this person, this body, mind, entity, this individual. And you need to become something to realise this absolute. But simply becoming, being, can never become. Because becoming implies a future time. And when you investigate that problem, time, you'll see trouble. Time is just a mental concept also. But we've got this belief in time, we've got this belief in this person, this separate entity, this individual. And how did it all come about? Well, it came about when we learnt words. How many words were you born with? Can anyone remember your birth? You can't remember your birth. Why can't you remember your birth? It's purely and simply because you had no words. How could you say I was born if you had no words or labels to put on it? And you didn't learn any words till you were about 2.5, when the capacity of reasoning developed you. At about that age, somewhere around that age. and your parents looking after you have put that label or name on you. So somebody will ask you who you are, you'll say, I am Bill, or I am John, or Joan, or whatever your name might be. And you put that label, I am Bill or Joan, and that's what you believe yourself to be, this person, this separate entity. They don't tell you you are the absolute because they don't know themselves. They've taken on the words, and from then on you learn more words. And so we're like, I am Bob, the Australian, the good fella, or not so good. I'm happy, I'm unhappy. Put all these mental concepts on and form a conceptual image, a false image of what I believe myself be. Instead of recognising it's the one essence, it's the one reality, and there is only that one, no matter how many different patterns, shapes and forms it appears in, it's still only that. And that's why they say the great mantra is, I am that. Innately you know that already. Because you don't just say, that's the chair I'm sitting in, that's the carpet that's on the floor, that's the tree, that's the flower. You know everything is already that. But we discriminate it with the words, we put different labels on it. And have a look at these words. The word's not the thing. Take the word water. Anyone drink the word? Can you quench the thirst with the word? Can you wash in the word? Will you drown in the word? You can't. The word fire, can you cook with it? Can you heat yourself with it? So, looking at that words and those things, what's this word I or me? Isn't it a concept? And that's all words, thoughts are concepts. And we take ourselves to be this person. Where does that word person come from? It comes from an ancient language. Latin, persona, the mask. So when we got this concept of person on ourselves, we think we are this conceptual image. Got a mask of concepts which seemingly obscure or hide our true nature. But there have been, down through the ages, that some of the great traditions, people have pointed out that it is all the one essence. They put the label God on it a lot of times, you know. And we think this God's a greater power, a higher power. And we've got to believe in this God. And that'll take us to where we've got to go. But non-duality, one without a second, not two, only that. That is all there is. There's not any other than that. But there seems to be other. There seems to be this sense of separation and appearance of separate. They call it a phenomenal manifestation. A manifestation made up of phenomena. Your dictionary definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. It's all appearance only. Seemingly so. And when they say the body-mind is Maya, it's illusion, that's what it appears to be. Have a look. It's all seemingly like a dream. You know what a dream is. You go to sleep at night, and in that dream things can appear. You can be in a shopping mall, in the mountains, in the hills, on the ocean, anywhere at all, and that body doing all sorts of activities, taking part in it. Words coming out, seemingly appearing, thoughts, feelings going on, all in that dream. You wake up in the morning, where does it all go? It all disappears. There can only be vague memories of parts of it, not all of it. So the mountains, the hills, or the lakes, or the shopping mall, wherever you were, all those things have disappeared. And you look in that dream and you realise in that dream you never moved off the bed. You're on the bed all the time. No words had come out of your mouth. And it all disappears when you wake up. It can be vague images of some of the dream. But if you don't recall it, it's gone for good. What you don't realise, that this is a waking dream. Because when you wake up in the morning, this dream continues on from where it left off the night before. And the mountains and the hills and the rivers and everything that was there the night before, they're still there in the morning. And it continues on from there. And Nisargadatta tells you that. He says, you're dreaming a dream you call the world. And that's what we're doing. He says, stop looking for ways out. We're trying to get out of this dream. We want to be in our concept of what the perfect living would be like. Dreaming a dream you call the world. Stop looking for ways out. The dream's not your concern. So he says, don't be concerned with the dream. Your concern is that you love one part of it and not the other. And that's true. We want the good. We don't want the bad. We want to change it, alter it, modify it. And it doesn't happen. When you look at it and see how it all comes about, what's it all appear in? What's the basic screen and what all this manifestation appears in? It's what you're sitting in right now. Space. Have a look at space. Does space have any centre to it? Can you find a static point where you can say this is where space begins? You can't. Because there is no point when you say it begins. Because it's, and you never will, because it's spontaneous. As it's beginning, it's already ending. It's not static. Does it have any boundaries or any circumference? We'll try and fly to the ends of space again. Try and find a boundary to it. You can't. Now you're sitting in space, try and grasp space. Push it aside. You can't. There is no thing there. Space is no thing. And all this manifestation is made up of things. You're a thing, I'm a thing, the tree's a thing, the flower's a thing. Everything appearing in space are things. Space is no thing. But can you postulate or think of anything at all that would be outside of space? What would it be in? And you realise it's got to be in something. The only thing it can be in is space. Space is no thing, and everything is a content of space. Well, can something come from no thing? It can't. Because of the things we think it's coming from is no thing also. So something cannot come from no thing. So you and I and everything else is that space-like awareness. It's what we call, you can't negate your being, you can't say I am not, you can't say I'm conscious, you can't say I'm conscious. Are you unaware right now? You realise, no, I'm not unaware. You know very well that you are aware. What are you aware of? Are Aren't you aware of being? You're aware of being right now. You can't say, I am not. You know for certainty that I am. But instead of realizing I am that absolute, I am that pure awareness, somebody will ask you who you are, you'll say, I am Bob or Harry or whatever your name might be, and I am this person, this individual. So we brought ourselves down from absolute into the believed in self-centered, the person, the entity, which is the cause of all our psychological suffering, the sense of being separate and divided. But they tell you that it's individual, indivisible, it can't be divided. It's inseparable, it can't be separate. You take that stance, recognise you, take the stance that you are the absolute. If you were the absolute, and you are, but if you realise it, what would you say? If I am the absolute, who can be superior to me? Who can be inferior to me? And what would I want of the other persons? So you see, a lot of all these fears, anxieties, stresses, guilt, shames, remorses are going to drop away. If I know I am that absolute. Nothing I need, nothing I want, nothing I need to become, nothing I need to be fearful. Why would I want to go to war with somebody else or fight with them? So see, this is where all our psychological suffering comes from, the belief we are this separate entity, this person. And the sad problem is we think we're going to get from the person, if we do this practice and do this other practice, do this and do that, practice this and practice that, we will become something. None of us ever say what they tell us. Start from the fact of your being. You are already that pure being. Start from there, and then you don't go through all this crap of trying to become something from the person trying to get there. You start from where you are and recognise again and again and again the cognising emptiness that you are. So everything is space. How does this work in your body? Something comes up and you like it. You don't know what your next thought is going to be, but a thought comes up, and it might be a good thought. You want that thought, you like that thought, not realising that this manifestation is transient. It only lasts a moment, or not even a moment. That's a measure of time. It's spontaneous. And we don't want these good things to go. We want to keep them there. It's transient. And so to try and keep it there, we resist it from going. And resistance is conflict. If you are resisting something, you are in conflict with it. You're fighting it. And if there's in conflict with it, it makes you uneasy. The fear, it makes you fearful or anxious or depressed, guilty, or not knowing what's going to happen, full of care or understanding. And that uneasiness, another name for that is dis-ease. So there's resistance, conflict and dis-ease going on in these patterns. Probably going on with a lot of you right now. You're saying this is a lot of crap, or I don't like it, or whatever it is. You're resisting what's being said. In conflict with yourself. Something comes up and you like it, the other way around. Now this thing you like, you want to keep it there. We don't want it to go. Not realising that it's transient again. It's constantly changing. Don't realise it. Well, have a look. This body that you believe you are is changing right in this moment. There's not one or two, but thousands of cells dying in it right now and being replaced. And the cells that are replacing it are full of that intelligence energy, because a liver cell is not going to replace a skin cell, or a heart cell is not going to replace a brain cell. Each cell, suffused with that intelligence and energy, knows what to do. So, something comes up and you like, you try to keep it there, and you've got to resist it from going. Not realising it's transit, it's going to change. So where we were trying to get rid of it in the first place, now we're trying to keep it there. So the same thing. And that's what our life's made up of. This constant conflict that's going on between the ears all the time. Fear, anxiety, stress. And you realise all relating to the me, the believed in me, the separate entity. Only me that can be angry. Only me that can be fearful. Only me that can be unhappy or depressed, shameful, jealous, envy. Me is the cause of all these psychological suffering. The anxiety, the fear, the stress. They are the effects of the cause. Me. Cause and effect. What's cause and effect? Well, you realise cause and effect is what they call karma. We've got this idea of all these karmic retributions we're going to get if we do this or don't do that. That's all the so-called karma is, cause and effect. Well, what happens if I recognise and realise this believed in me, the believed in cause, is a fiction? It doesn't really exist. It's only a conceptual image I've had about myself, the energy as belief has gone into, and keeping it there. I realise that me is a fiction, and ask myself the simple question, well, can there be an effect if it's not related to a cause? Well, you don't have to be a Rhodes Scholar to work that out. If you're not relating to a cause, who or what can have the effect, or where can it lodge? It'll be just as it is, left as it is, unaltered, unmodified, uncorrected. It changes by itself. And that's what needs to be investigated and recognised. That you are this life energy, this pure awareness, the absolute awareness. And all the conceptual images are because we're related to this believed in me. For it's only the me that can be unhappy, fearful, anxious, or whatever. Me is a fiction. It doesn't exist because we say me is mind. The mind is the me. The mind is the past. As Nisargadatta tells you, there's no me in the present. What's this thing called mind if you believe you are the mind? Can anyone show me a thing called mind when you investigate? Yet you're claiming it readily and every day. My mind. My mind. Show it to me. When you investigate, you realise there's no such thing as mind apart from thought. And when you bring it in, you say, I, mind. It's just believed in I am, which is the thing called mind, which is a thought, a concept, a word, a sound. What's a concept? Words. What's words? Sounds. What are sounds? Vibration. What's vibration? A movement of energy. So all these words, concepts, are just a vibrating pattern of energy. Now there have been millions of autopsies been done over the ages. Anyone digging into that human pattern, looking into the brain, the cells, anyone ever found a mind in it? This thing you're claiming to be you? can't find it, do an autopsy on the body. Just the same, you can't find a soul. We've got these concepts that we be the real without investigation, take them on board. No wonder we're continually beating ourselves up, making ourselves a lot less than what we are. And it's not necessary. Though there was a belief here for many years that it was so, and I was right into it. A lot of suffering, a lot of pain, a lot of anguish, a lot of stress. Very little comes about right now, if any, because it's not, if it does seem to come up, the thought's not fixated on or attached to. It's left as it is. And being a vibration, it moves on. And that's all that dualism is. Relationship. Relative. Relative to. That's relationship. And we're talking about the non-dual. When we're coming from the point of view of duality. That's why it needs to be investigated and see for yourself. And it's very simple when it's looked into. Initially, we're so locked into the thoughts, concepts, ideas and images. We think this is not true, this is not possible. But realise, investigate. The false cannot stand up to investigation. That's what they tell us. And when you look into that, you see it's true. If you recognise something as not as it appears to be, and when you've seen that, many things in your life. Like you go down to the sea and I'll say, get me a bucket of blue water out of the sea. You and I know the sea's not blue. It'll never happen. But at one stage we believed the sea was blue. The sky seems blue. A blue canopy over the space. Go up 30 or 40,000 feet in the plane, the blueness is not there. Water in a rainbow, the snake in the rope. All these different analogies they point out, pointing out the fact that when it's investigated, these things are not what they appear to be. The snake in a rope, for instance. A fellow steps out of his room on a dark, wet night, stands on a piece of wet rope. It slides under his feet. Immediately he thinks he's trod on a serpent, a snake. It's removed. And the goosebumps come up, the hair on his hair stands on end, and this bolt of fear flies through him. Shit, he should have won the snake. All sorts of fear there. Somebody comes out and shines a torch on it. Look, it's only a piece of wet rope. There's an immediate sense of relief. But the fear and the trembling that it's caused has stirred up the physical. That's not going to die down straight away. It'll take a bit of time to stir down. But left as it is, it will die down. But then again, we keep reinforcing it, thinking it's there still. When you investigate and look into these things and start to get the taste of your true nature, you realise the simplicity of this. It's that simple that we miss it, because we think we've got to make all this effort. We're told in a lot of these great traditions, you've got to become this, you've got to do this and do that, and all sorts of things to do, and then maybe you might get it after that. Not realise it's just a little bit of pure investigation. Question your doubts, question your thoughts, see for yourself. Am I this body? Am I this mind? Innately you already know that, because you say my body, my mind. You say my house, my car, my coat, my hat. You know you're not the car, the house, the coat or the hat. Well, maybe you're not the body either. And when you look into it and investigate, you see you're not. What's this body made up of? You realise this body's made up of elements: air, earth, fire, water, space. just like the elements around you. You're in the air right now. Well, take that air out of your body. See how long you'd last without that air. Not going to last too long. Pointing out that the body is made up of air. Take the water. Your body's 60% water. Stop drinking water. You wouldn't last too long. Take the fire, the body temperature. You'd soon get hypothermia and die of the cold without that body temperature. Take the earth, air, fire, the body temperature, the water. So you can't live without those elements. And that's all this body is, made up of elements. And all these elements can be broken down into subatomic particles, into pure energy. And isn't that what's going on right now? That body is a vibrating pattern of energy. You're breathing, it's beating your heart, it's breathing, it's growing your hair in your fingernails, it's digesting your food, it's causing the words to come out, the sounds, the vibration. It's a vibrating pattern of energy, which you're claiming as my body. And who's claiming it as my body? The concept, the thought, I am, this is me. Thought claiming to be this body. And mind, the same with mind. You can't show me a thing called mind. And there's no such thing as mind apart from thought. As they tell you in Buddhism, they call it the great perfection instead of the absolute. You can't add anything to the perfect, you can't take anything away. And they give it in one sentence. The great perfection is non-conceptual awareness. Awareness without any of these thoughts or concepts. And we think that we've got to think these thoughts and things like that. But the awareness is there first. And you cannot say you're unaware right now. So it's non-conceptual, ever fresh presence awareness. Now, some of you here, a lot of you here, come in a while, got a good idea of what it is. And you can pass it on. They might want to hear it. They might hear it a bit different to what they're hearing it here. And what they hear might resonate with somebody and recognise it. So that's how it's passed on. It resonates or is recognised. It's a cognising emptiness. It's the emptiness that's fused with that intelligence energy is doing the cognising. And the Buddha made the statement that emptiness is form. Telling you that all this manifestation, all these forms are emptiness. Emptiness is form. It's the emptiness that's forming them. And he turns it round the way and said the forms can be nothing other than the emptiness. So the pattern, shapes and forms appearing are that one essence. And you are already that. So if you've got any doubts or questions, don't hesitate to ask them, and those of you that got a good understanding of it or recognise it, don't hesitate to put it out there. Because who the hell's going to hear it if you don't, somebody's not pointing it out to them? You didn't work it out when nobody was pointing it out, because we were obscured, like the sun gets obscured by clouds, and you think the sun's not in the sky, but when you realise the sun never left the sky, and the clouds are seemingly obscuring it, and the clouds just are condensed water, and the cloud will evaporate and blow away, and when the sky is clear, there's more clarity, more warmth in it. The same here. When all these thoughts in your head are seen for what they are and left in there, what will be there when there's less thought there? There'll be more clarity there. And more clarity, in that clarity there'll be more cognising, more understanding, a more recognising of your true nature. Thought free, ever fresh, presence awareness. Just this, nothing else. So get into it.
Can't be out of it.
Tell you, he is. Thank you. Don't be backward and coming forward.
I have a lot of birthday wishes from people who are with us online. From Bill, from Tanya, from Michael, from Mirella, Blasenka, Dale, Patricia, and Amy and Tony. So no questions from online participants, just
How is it that emptiness is formed?
Well, it vibrates into different patterns, shapes and forms. See, the ocean can be still and calm, but the energy will stir through it, cause a ripple or a wave. They become the forms. But like the ocean is ever changing, but never changing, so is this. It's ever changing, but never changing. It's still the one essence that appears into different patterns, shapes and forms. An appearance only seemingly so. That's why they call it a phenomenal manifestation. And the definition of phenomena is that which appears to be. So this manifestation is only seemingly so. Seemingly quite real. And it is real in its essence, but not how it appears. It's the one essence appearing, patterning, shaping, vibrating and expressing as everything.
this too shall come to pass.
Bob, then why does the mind take the concepts to be real, take the concepts about the form to be real?
Because that's the way we were taught. We get the word or the concept on something and take it how it appears to be. And that's the amazing wonderment of it all. That in all this diversity, the different ways, shapes, patterns, forms that appear in, implies it's suffused with a wondrous and amazing intelligence. People call it God, but then they get the label that there's something greater than what we are, this God thing, you know. Tells you in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God. The Word was God. That's all that God is a Word. All things were made by Him, by the Word, and that's so. All these things which we label, we put the Word on. And there was nothing made that was made without the Word. So we learnt words. That's the problem. Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, paradise, having a great old time. But they learnt, took on the word knowledge of good and evil. They learnt words, good and evil. Not only good and evil, all the other words. As soon as they learnt the words, dualism, they're kicked out. That's what we do. We've learnt the words. We're functioning from the dualistic point of view when it's not true. There's only the one. And all the great traditions in that will tell you it's one without a second, not two. Only the one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear me. Can you hear that? Hear. Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. There is none other. So you are that already.
Kat, I deeply thank you for keeping our Bob healthy and happy. And it is a fact that I learned many from you. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
It's a great honor and a great pleasure to be around this beautiful man.
It is. It is.
Thank you. We have more birthdays from the online community. We have another birthday wishes from Keith and another from Maureen. I'll read them individually to you later on. All of them.
Hi. I'm curious in the energy, and I wonder what you experienced when you were around Nisargadatta. Like I walked in today, and even coming here, sometimes I notice that there's like a piece that is often there but descends to a deeper kind of resonance, and then walking in here and just sitting here, it's the absorption of that. And so what draws us all back here over and over and over, and what I wonder what you have to say about the resonance of energy in different places and people, and what you experienced.
Yeah. Well, that's so. Energy is everywhere. Some place it might be more apparent than others. Just like a lot of other things in nature. You know? It's all that vibrating pattern of intelligent energy. Yeah. So if there's more energy in this room, who brought it there? Each and every one of you come with a certain amount of energy. Especially if you're looking into this stuff of it, be more so than if somebody's coming in full of all the unhappiness and the depression and guilt and shame we carry around with it. And that can make places low in energy. You feel that too. So life is energy. Energy is life. And you are life. Everybody is life.
How it was around Nisargadatta Mukti was also asking.
Very good.
What a surprise.
You couldn't help but love the man.
Can't help but love you.
Yes, I have the same towards you.
Yes, you can. You can work.
Can I just go back to what was your name?
Cliff.
Cliff's talking about the mind and how it became this, how it started to sense, and what Bob responded to. And I just want to add on that it became a knower, so not only the patterns, but it knows that it's real, it knows that it exists, and that knowing is what we're here for, because we're talking about an unknowing. You can't know what not to is, and the so we're stumped. We're totally stumped. It's that not only have we become this, but also we come from a sense of knowing, and you can't know this at all. Yep.
That you know that you are that knowingness. That's another way of putting it. Being, knowing, loving to be. That's the Satchitananda. You're being right now, and you're knowing that you are right now, and you don't want to be rude right now.
But that's a knowing. Still a knowing. Yeah, that's still a knowing though, Bob.
Yeah. What did you say?
I was saying that's still a knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what you're
Satchitananda.
Yeah. That's what
How do I know that?
That's what you were talking about, wasn't it? The knowing?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
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 Well, you already know that.
Yeah, I think something you used to say, Bob, was there's nothing more simple than simple, or something like that.
Yeah.
So, it's the language that we divide everything. People talk about oneness, Well, you can't talk about oneness unless you divide it up with words and concepts. So all the talk about oneness is actually not oneness, but the simplicity of looking at things as they are. Life is spontaneous. That's self-evident. It doesn't have a past or a future or a present. They're just labels. So if life is spontaneous, that means that there's no cause that you can discern or put a label on. So, this life right now is causeless. It's spontaneous. It has no past. It has no future. It has no present. So that is the activity of knowing, which everything is the activity of knowing. But the labels divide it up so that, we can apparently think about things. And it's a bit like a jigsaw puzzle in that way. We think we can get all the parts together and put the jigsaw back together and it's oneness again, but there's always a piece missing. Where is that piece that's missing? And life is spontaneous. It's so obvious and so simple. And the mind, I remember sitting on this couch many, many years ago, and it dawned on me that the mind cannot divide anything. I was sitting in the room listening to somebody speaking to Bob, and Bob answering and talking back and forth, and it dawned on me that hearing was happening, but there was no engagement with the so-called intellect. It was just, the hearing was happening by itself spontaneously. And it just dawned on me that the mind can't divide anything except itself. So, we appear to divide the wholeness, but it can't be divided. Wholeness cannot be divided, otherwise it wouldn't be whole. You can get an orange and cut it in half. It's no longer a whole orange. You can glue it back together with super glue, but it's not a whole orange. So that wholeness has never been divided. So there's nothing to do. There's nothing to fix. There's no one to fix it. And what is what is. So the seeker is the problem, and the thinker is just another thought. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have a question from someone who is with us online. We have about 30 people here, and there is few nice comments from more wishes and more comments. Nice to see room filled up today, says Vivek. And someone with the name Hey You. Bob, when you recognize or cognize, does that mean it's already being experienced? Just asking, because when you say when we were born we don't have language, but trying to recognize, cognize is already being experienced, which is already past.
Well, it's the cognising emptiness. It's emptiness itself that does the knowing or cognising. Emptiness is form, and the form can't be anything other than the emptiness. Cognising is another term for knowing. It's a knowing emptiness, pure knowing. The ing on it gives it something that's happening right now, knowing, seeing. What's your next thought going to be? You don't know. But a thought will come up and you say, I think. As soon as you say, I think, you formed a subject, a thinker. And that thinker is thinking this thought, whatever the thought would be. So that's where subject-object comes about, thinker and the thought. But can there be a thinker without thinking? Can there be a seer without seeing? Can there be a taster without tasting? Or an experiencer without experiencing? There can't be. So seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, the ing means it's something that's happening. There's the thing, the ing is on the thing too. Something happening right now, not something that will or has. So seeing, thinking.
Yes, so the cognizing is independent from language. Language is just a translation, one of the way in which it expresses. The cognizing happens. The Buddhists are discussing whether dog has a Buddha nature. Well, the dog knows that it is. The awareness of presence, that's the cognizing, the emptiness cognizing. It cognizes using whatever. The bats have a sonars. They cognize through that. Some other animals have other senses, and the sense of smell or the sense, there are even senses like more colors some birds are seeing. Unbelievable way in which that cognizing emptiness expresses itself and translates itself through different channels of experiencing. So this was Amarnath. I don't know if he's answering to Hey You, but he says love is not a word or thing or done. It happens in its natural state. Resistance is also from form of hidden love. And Keith says we can't help but love you. And Amarnath says, replying to Keith, thanks a million, we love you too. Beautiful, you are the love others, me can't be created. Here and now are also lost beyond time, space and person. And another happy birthday from Xanthi. And Amarnath, mind is indivisible, appearing as divided. And he also says happy birthday, every moment is birthday, loads of love. And Heyu says thank you Bob and Pat, with love. And that's it for the online participation, so back to you again.
This is an impossible meeting. It always has been, yeah. It's the mind trying to understand itself or expose itself, which is impossible. I guess one question arises is, can we go beyond, can we possibly conceive or go beyond the mind as the limit of reality? Because that's what we always come back to, isn't it? The mind is the limit of reality. If I can understand it, then I can understand my life, my universe, my relativity to everything. But what we're dealing with here is that there is life beyond the mind, which is an incredible thing, really. So how do we How do we get to that, Bob? What's your best condensed?
Well, just as you said, there is. Instead of putting any more on it, there is the isness.
Yes, quite.
Right here, right now, you can't negate your being. Can't say, I am not. If you do say it, realise there's something there enabling you to say it. Everything is.
Yeah.
And is not time-bound, it's spontaneous.
We are beyond the mind.
Yes.
We are
Yeah.
beyond the mind. It's all beyond the mind. The mind arises in
Say it to the
the
mind.
awareness of the cognising emptiness, the all-pervading reality is what we are, but the mind is a sensing, thinking instrument in that, and we think we are the limited mind, but we are beyond that. It goes beyond, pervades everything, all creatures, all being.
That's right.
Beautiful.
Because the mind is no thing. There's no such thing.
There's always a young child in the back saying, "Are we there yet?" Already said it.
Yes, the mind's a thought up reality. The me thought up reality doesn't really exist, as Bob said. It's coming from nowhere. I also have just about experiencing, that word experience is a little bit lame in the sense of it's who's experiencing, that's the point, so experiencing consciousness, all those words are a little bit outdated, but we're talking about nothing, so it's you've got to use something, I guess, to point to.
More birthday wishes from Sharon, and then Ren says, I say, enjoy the ride. Because Peter was asking you for advice, how the best way you do it, you go beyond the mind. Ren says, I say, enjoy the ride. As Cliff says, you can't do anything, you're not the doer, you're not the mind, you don't have that sort of a power, but the recognition that you are already beyond the mind, or you're already that, or you're already present and aware of your presence, that's the answer. And what stands in the way? Distractions. Giving power to words, giving power to stories, giving power to imagination. So recognizing that sense, that sort of the attraction in what is not happening, and just giving it a smile, really laughing at it. From the point beyond the mind already, because how else could you see the mind if not from the pure recognition of it being a vibration, being a distraction, a wave, transient, just passing through the open field of consciousness that you are already.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with the mind, really.
No. Quite entertaining, isn't it?
Yeah. Makes movies and
Yeah.
whiskey.
I think that there's a flood of compassion that comes with this too, that and love for what is, which takes you beyond the mind. And once you drop down into that, into the heart of the matter, it's just one is liberated from, and there's no control over that. I don't know how that happens, but it happens, doesn't it? There's a desire and an attraction and a revelation of love, which is not particularly mindful.
Yeah.
So Amana says, me is just letters M and E. And Ren sent a little butterfly image. So, because we celebrate Bob's birthday, you probably know already that the best gift you can ever give him is the reflection of that clarity, which he's transmitting constantly. When he sees someone coming home, you see that light reflected. So whatever resonates, whatever you feel, that could actually be that gift for him. Keep giving it. You give it to yourself. There is no one else than yourself. But it is really precious. Come on, Cole, you want to say a word?
Well, I'm just thinking, you give it to everybody.
That's right.
You give it to everybody.
And nobody, yes.
And it's nothing.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about
You said the self identity can only doesn't exist in the present, and that's very true because it only exists in the past, and of course the past is just a story. It's dead. It has no existence. So if you see that very clearly, that the past has no existence, that entity that you always thought you were has no reality. No reality at all. It's just a story. It's just conceptual. I'm talking to a shoehorn.
The holy shoehorn.
Yeah, the holy shoehorn.
Julia, did you want to say something? No? Oh, Lindsay, okay. Yeah, cool.
What I notice is that nothing has changed. Like nothing at all has changed. And the application of this understanding over the decades is really all like it's the truth in action. It's like the truth of this living, breathing understanding of the oneness of all life, the interconnectedness of all life, and the experience of that in the present, and how the idea or the thought of an experience being something such as pain or suffering or joy or whatever, it doesn't actually change the experience of it. Like the experience of it is alive, and so when I see this body, this instrument breaking down and crying and seemingly suffering and seemingly in pain, when the story of what is labeled as happening, when that is just the grip of that just is loosened, then I find myself one and the same as the actual experience itself. And then it's love. It's like it's right here. And it's just love. And it's real. And yeah, that's what I have to share.
That is beautiful. It is beautiful. I got a couple of comments. Another birthday wishes from JB. And Amanat says, freshness and newness is the eternity. My beloved Bob, and a lot of cakes and hearts and things. And Vivek says, there are no experiences in consciousness. All that is needed us to rest in the self. And Amana says, I lost thee, I got the I remained as I, nothing ever happens or happened. And Bill says, you are not beyond the mind, you are the inescapable immediacy which is ever present. Yeah, that's a good take on. Yeah. Apparent contradiction, you are not beyond the mind, is just a pointer. Of course, you know, you are the totality, mind included. But you are not exclusively what you think you are. Usually the thinking is that I am the mind. So the pointer, you are not the mind or you are beyond the mind, is to dislodge that fixed position of being the mind. It is not the absolute truth, because the absolute truth cannot be spoken in words. And that includes inescapable immediacy, which is also a word. But it's a beautiful pointer. Thank you, Bill. And Tanya says, what song right now unless you think about it? She's quoting Bob. So there is nothing wrong or right. Noticing how only a thought or pattern of thought appearing says there is a problem, but what is actually here says nothing at all. Seems most thoughts are just a story that is not real. And Amana says, I lost the I, a little I, and I got the I, it is a capital, yet nothing happened or happening or will happen. Nothing lost is its meaning as it's everything. All words became naked without meaning. And the icons. Julia.
I just wanted to say thank you, Bob. Thank you for hanging in there. That's so long, 94 years. And how many of those years have been dedicated to this?
Oh, 60.
60 years?
62.
Yeah, 62 years. What an incredible feat. Thank you.
He's given up the will to die.
That's true. Goes on and on and on. Beautiful.
I was just going to babble on a little bit about one of my favorite pointers from you was just about intelligence energy. I mean, it for me, well, there's no me, but at the same time, it really was such a helpful pointer because it's not a thing. And at the same time, it appears as absolutely everything, including the thoughts and the me and the no me and the emptiness and everything. It's I'm using words, of course, but that's the intelligence energy as well. So it's I think somebody earlier asked about how emptiness is formed. Well, this intelligence energy is empty, isn't it? It's just energy, or the energy. I like. It was. I don't know. I think of energy as a wave. You know, when you look at a picture of it, but it appears on something. So I guess that's the Shiva and the Shakti that you've talked about in the past. So that stillness, which wouldn't exist without the energy, and vice versa. It simplifies it, you know, makes it easy to see that this emptiness, this no thing, is everything, is the form. Anyway, that's what I just thought I'd throw in my understanding of that. Not that I understand anything. Yeah.
One of the gifts of the richness of duality and when there's way less of a preoccupation with the sense of a self or a me, then the unexpected, because I think way back I had this incredible fear that I would have to lose everything, and so there was a gripping and a struggling and a wanting freedom, but also I don't want to let go of all the things that I think are my life. And I mean, ironically, in a sense, all of that has changed and fallen away, relationships and marriages, and you know, the willingness to let that all fall away was what was needed, seemed to be. And I just now am so grateful, Bob. Every time I hear a pointer from you, there's some time where there's a struggle or there's that identification happening again, and there's such a simplicity, like in the one you shared, Julia, as well, of the just now, the way that those words that you bring help me in those moments to cut back to the not to, you know, and then there's just so much more fun and play and relationships and family and work and flowers and trees, and everything is so much brighter and richer and in that freedom. Yeah. So celebrating that today, and I know you've said 1,000 times, 1,000 times 1,000 perhaps, the spiel, and every time it is fresh to me. So I so appreciate you, life bringing you here over and over and over again to speak to itself. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you could say one of the really practical pointers in Bob's first book is it's worth repeating many, many times, and that is watch the mind and see how it operates. You know, it puts the ball right in your court. You know, it's up to you. Watch the mind, see how it operates, and insights will come from watching the mind and see how it operates. And one that came for me was I recognised that the experiencing is uninterrupted. Nothing interrupts the experiencing. The experiences come and go, and if you look at it, you watch the mind, an experience is the mind labelling some event or so-called experience and adding a narrative. But that is there, and then it disappears. And in deep sleep, every night in deep sleep, it all disappears. In the morning, it appears we have a choice. Do we pick up all that baggage of the stories of me and do the play over and over again? Or is there an opportunity to let the narrative just fade away? Life is spontaneous. And phenomena is self-liberating. It liberates itself. It doesn't need an entity to keep it there or make it go away. That's the nature of phenomena. And if you look at a rainbow is phenomena. But it doesn't actually have a location. The rainbow that you see is not the same rainbow as that I see or somebody else sees. And it has no location. When I was 10 years old, somebody told me there was a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And on the weekend, I went up into the bushland beyond where my house was, and there was a rainbow, and I was going to find the end of the rainbow. And I walked and I walked and I walked, and the rainbow vanished, and I was a little bit disappointed. But I kind of learnt something in that. It's like, it's bullshit. And there you go, phenomena. Things appear and disappear. And we might get attached to things, and we feel sad if they die or they disappear or they don't want to see us anymore or whatever. But what is that attachment? And who is it attached to? It's all concepts and ideas and blah, 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 blah. Thank you. That's going that way.
Change seats. Yeah. Just wanted to say, let's not forget that the duality is beautiful. Duality, what appears in duality, is actually the other side of the coin. It's not something to be get away from necessarily. It's something to totally embrace as being. Once you see the truth, once you get the resonance of the fact that all is one, then the duality, which keeps on reappearing, is the one. It's so beautiful in its incredible division of everything. The intellect, the capacity of thinking is what thinking is the action of God in duality, isn't it? And that's in that case, that is and that isn't is playing at the same time. It's all one thing and all incredibly beautiful and not worthy of disparagement, really, because it is all of that. It is all that.
On that, Peter, is there? I'm listening to you, and I'm wondering, but is there duality?
Well, no. No, there isn't. Not in truth. Kind of like,
like everything else
It
is
is and
sensual.
it isn't. Bob, you want to answer that?
I say it appears to be,
Yeah.
but it's the same coin as you were saying.
Mm.
Not John, it's still the one coin with two sides.
So, in a sense, you can flip in and out with this. You can have a mobility of mind, if you like, a mobility of awareness, where you flip in and out. You see the beauty of things, or the devastation, and then you flip back into the realization that this is all one, and then you get back down again. It's not like a process of swimming, isn't it? Swimming through. That's how I would say it. But
Well, when you go into a deep sleep at night and you go into that nothing state, that nothing can never know itself, because to know itself would have to split into a subject and an object. To know itself, you'd have to then have a subject and an object. So it can never know itself.
it does know itself, doesn't it? That's the impossible. What do you think? You have a comment on that?
Well, the knowing is just conceptual, but concept, two ends of the stick. Still the same coin, the same stick. But this is the same.
Paul.
Isn't the question then, if I'm that, or if can that know itself if it's one? Isn't that what sort of the question really behind this little snippet of conversation?
Yeah, and who wants the answer yes or no?
So you have to create an entity then that would want to know.
Yeah.
So you have to create a subject.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And again, trying to grasp it with the mind.
And then that
That's
subject wants to create an object.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
You're in,
That's
you're-
right.
Yeah, good point, Carl. Very good point.
But it's still knowing.
It's still knowing. And is it the rainbow or there is no rainbow? Again, who wants to work it out in the mind?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, Dean.
On Friday evening, there was a bit of wanting to work a habitual wanting to work it out in the mind, and I could see that I was about to fall in a very familiar hole, and at that moment, there was a notification on Facebook, and it caught my attention, and I looked, and it was someone that had liked a post that I'd made last year, which I shared a poem that Bob had shared with me here one of the Friday afternoons I'd come to, and that poem, when he shared it to me that day, really brought me out of the hole that I was about to fall in. And yet again on Friday, it did the very same thing, but it was like there I was about to kind of fall in this trap. And I can't explain to you just how I don't know how to say it, but the fact that that poem came at that moment on the Friday night when I really needed, was the most helpful thing. And I just wanted to say that it I suppose it not restored faith. It showed me that I'm not the mind. That here's this miracle of this seeming miracle. I don't know what to say. That just this poem arrived at the perfect moment. It's just evidence. Thank you.
I should also repeat, when I was saying about the subject and the object before, that's completely imaginary. See? You're always complete and whole. And the idea of splitting into a subject and an object is purely conceptual.
I know. Yeah, and I guess the answer, Bob answered that question, if you like, that all there is knowing, and that doesn't require a split.
Yeah. It's uninterrupted.
Yeah.
Concepts don't interrupt it.
Yeah.
But as soon as we take ourselves to be an entity,
Well, as soon as we open our mouth,
Yeah.
subject
that's
and
it.
seemingly subject and object. As soon as we open our mouth, we're going to be. There's going to be a seeming subject entity here, talking about some object outside of itself. And if you see through it, well, what's the problem?
Yeah, life. The thing is, life is spontaneous. It doesn't have a cause. This demolishes everything. If you really see that life, nobody can tell you where life comes from. They've got these new telescopes that see further and further, and see galaxies. So what? It doesn't matter how good those telescopes get. It's just going to be stars and more stars and galaxies, and then they make this big deal out of it, and they're trying to find the Big Bang, which is a theory. It's just a theory. There's no beginning or any end, You can't remember being born, so how can you have the audacity to start talking about the beginnings of other things and the end of other things? You go to sleep at night and everything disappears in deep sleep. And in the morning you have a seeming choice. Am I going to pick up this bag of shit that I've been carrying around, the story of me, and relive the same crap over and over? Or am I going to just leave it where it is, in the past?
Who makes that decision?
Nobody. There's nobody who can make that choice. But having the thought that I don't need to carry this crap. Why do I carry this crap around? Why do I tell my story to other people? I mean, what does anybody know about you that you haven't told them? Not much. The government knows more.
Facebook knows a lot.
And all these identity things, like bits of paper that prove your identity, plastic, and you've got to use this to get in here and get in there. That doesn't prove anything about who you are. You don't know who you are. You are that. That's it. There's no who involved.
There's no you, so you can't know the mind. But you know, once you drop, there's no you. There's no duality, but there is a sense that of that as well.
I thought we'd leave it with that's that, but wanted to mention tomorrow's meeting to remind anyone, if you're in the U.S. time zone, or please join us tomorrow on Zoom. It's on Bob's website. And then we get back to what you were saying. I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in.
Bust out that cake, I think. I'm getting hungry. The holy sugar.
Just one thing I'd like to add to all of this is that I think one has to approach it with a bit of levity at some point. You have to start laughing about it, because you know, there's never going to be any answer to these questions that we pose, these cutting and dicing and slicing all of the, you know, the little bits and pieces of non-duality, which we love to do. You know, we love to do, but in the end, we're going to fail miserably at that. So, yeah, sure.
The thing to do is, who's the questioner?
Yeah.
Who wants to know?
Yeah, exactly. So, just got to enjoy yourself, I think. Ha 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 ha! It was Bob's 94th birthday anyway. So we're going to go back there, are we?
I'm ever amused by this.
Thanks, Peter, because I feel like the few experiences or like times that I've felt like I've been experiencing what everyone talks about, there is always this sense of just laughability, like, and it always seems to arise when I'm doing mundane tasks, just like typing on the computer, and there's this awareness that there's just a field of vision with a couple of meat sticks pointing out of it and some sausages on the end of those, kind of just going about their business, but at the same time there's astonishment, like there's just this utter astonishment at the things that go on when you're out of the way, or when I'm out of the way, and then the mind kind of tries to stick back in and explain things, and then I fall back into the awareness, but really I don't know anything. Like I can't say anything about it, and a lot of people who have this understanding and have obviously experienced this for longer are able to put it into words succinctly, but for me it seems like these times when it's there and I'm just a circle of vision with things occurring in it, and it's utterly absorbing and astonishing, and then I'm back creating a story about it. But I appreciate what you say, because that for me it is just this, there's a laughability and like it's just a dumb joke almost. But yeah, thank you, and thank you, Bob, so much. I can't say how much I feel like things have started to appear in my life, or this awareness has started to appear so much more often since I've been seeing you. So thank you.
I don't know if you're referring to a recent movie called Everything Everywhere All at Once. No. And they've actually got like sausages as fingers. And I got that visual then, and it's such a good movie.
I've seen it, but that wasn't...
Yeah, yeah. It was really good.
I have a couple of comments from people who are with us online. That's Vivek says the energy is expressing as nature, is expressing to tell it exists through its not visible. Otto says, but thoughts are saying to whom? And who will rest in the self? They're all the same sort of a version of the inquiry with Julia's take on is who gives a shit. Yeah, who will rest in self? Amarnath says no one is saying or listening like radio. And Jaya says a beautiful, wonderful, happy birthday, Bob, appearing 94 on Mother Earth. And Patricia says thank you for this well of fresh water. And Tanya, thank you everyone, so amazing as usual. Hope you all have a beautiful celebration with a lot of yummy food, fun, and laughs. Yes, thank you for showing up.
Yeah.
Dean, would you like to have a last word?
No, absolutely not.
Come on.
No, I really wouldn't have it.
Come on, lads.
Oh no, I think nothing. Like,
Your last words, nothing.
well, I think everyone's just really. I feel like everyone's really thrilled to be here and share this time with you as that in this expression, and there's just love and there's heaps of laughter and gratitude, and we'll celebrate together, Bob.
It's a two-way street.
Yes, definitely. It is. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.